Welcome back to AKHARA Study. Today we are looking at our Class 6 English textbook, specifically Lesson 6. You can see the lesson right here on the page, a poem titled How the Little Kite Learned to Fly by Katherine Pyle. Katherine Pyle wrote stories that tackle real, everyday emotions. In this poem, she zeroes in on something we all experience at some point, the overwhelming, paralyzing fear of failure. The story sets up two characters in entirely different situations. We have a tiny yellow kite stuck firmly down on the grass, looking upward at a much larger, confident red kite drifting effortlessly through the clouds. It poses a direct question for anyone watching from the ground. How do you push yourself to take that first terrifying step when you are paralyzed by the thought of falling? If we look at the opening lines of the poem on the page, the little kite makes its position entirely clear. "I never can do it," the little kite said. When standing at the bottom of a challenge, the distance to the top looks impossibly large. Here, the kite explicitly states its fear. "I know I should fall if I tried to fly." You can almost hear the tremor. This is the exact same reaction a student might have when facing a difficult math exam or trying to speak a new language out loud for the very first time. The penalty for failing feels too painful to even risk an attempt. Gravity is barely holding the paper kite down. The real weight keeping it trapped is the mental block of its own self-doubt. The big kite doesn't offer a complicated tutorial or a lengthy lecture on aerodynamics. It gives a direct command: only try, or I fear you never will learn at all. Then the older kite does the most helpful thing a mentor can do. It models success. It nods goodbye and begins to rise smoothly upward into the air. Our textbook highlights the specific environment the big kite enters. Looking at the word nest box on page 61, it defines the sky as tranquil, meaning quiet and peaceful. Seeing that peaceful ascent triggers something down below. The text tells us the little kite's paper suddenly stirs at the sight. It begins to shake with a nervous, restless energy. The motivation to start rarely appears entirely on its own. Seeing someone else calmly navigate the very thing you are terrified of is often the exact spark required to make you move. The little kite finally commits. Looking back at the text, the poem says, "Trembling, he shook himself free for flight." It takes physical action while still actively terrified. The textbook specifically defines its first movement as whirling. That means moving around quickly in a circle. The first attempt isn't graceful. It feels entirely out of control. But as the kite pushes through the air alone, its emotional state shifts. The text notes it goes directly from frightened to braver-brown. Up above, the big kite looks down. Instead of a wildly spinning paper, it now watches the little kite establish a steady upward path, gaining balance with every foot of altitude. The messy, disorienting phase of learning something new is unavoidable. Bravery is earned by pushing through that initial chaos until the motion becomes steady. Once it reaches the upper air, the little kite experiences the reward. The textbook illustration shows the two kites floating side by side, with the little one now thrilled with pride at its own achievement. Gaining altitude completely reverses how the kite views its environment. The massive, intimidating world it looked up at earlier is now far below. The poem notes that the people below look incredibly small. The boys walking on the grass appear as tiny moving spots against the landscape. Taking action solves the immediate problem of getting off the ground, but it also shrinks the perceived size of past fears. The ground is no longer a threat. It is just a distant part of the scenery. The frantic whirling of the takeoff is replaced by a quiet resting state. High in the air, the kite finds itself surrounded only by birds and clouds. In this peaceful space, the little kite cries out, declaring exactly how happy it feels to be flying. The poem leaves us with the exact reason for this joy right here at the end. And all because I was brave and tried. Bravery does not mean waiting until you are no longer scared. True courage is feeling the absolute terror of failing and choosing to leap anyway. Keep that lesson in mind the next time you face a difficult subject in school. You have to take the first step. If this lesson breakdown helped you today, Be sure to like this video, share it with your classmates, and subscribe to AKHARA Study for more Class 6 English videos.